The user will create a provider profile by signing up. To sign up as a provider, the user first sets the provider's store location on the map. Then the user will enter the provider profile information and the application will validate the entered values. The application will display an error message if there are any violations. After pressing sign up, the application will direct the user to the login page and request the email and password. After the first login, an email verification message will be sent to the user in order to verify the email. Once the email is verified and the provider is logged in, the application will display the provider homepage, which has two tabs: orders under processing and orders waiting for pickup, and a sliding button indicating the store is open or closed. There is also a page for the menu, orders history, and the provider profile, which has a reset password option. On the profile page, the provider can edit the store information, such as the image of the store, the name, and much more. By pressing the plus sign on the menu, the provider can add an item to the menu. The provider will enter the item's image, name, original price, and a description. The provider now has created many items. By pressing on the pin icon, the provider can edit the item information. And by pressing on the waste bin to delete an item. On the daily menu, by pressing on the plus sign, the items of the menu will be displayed and the provider has the option of adding any of them. The default quantity of the item is 1 and the discount percentage is 10. The provider can change both of them. The items on the daily menu are the ones that will be displayed on the consumer homepage. The provider can add more items to the daily menu throughout the day. The provider can make a donation by setting the discount percentage to 100, meaning it will be free. The consumer will create a profile by signing up. The consumer will enter the profile information and the application will validate the entered values. The application will display an error message if there are any violations. After pressing sign up, the application will direct the consumer to the login page and request the email and password. After the first login, an email verification message will be sent to the consumer in order to verify the email. Once the email is verified and the consumer is logged in, The application will display the consumer homepage, which is a list of providers ordered ascendingly according to distance. On the map page, the providers will be displayed as markers. When the consumer presses on a marker, it will display the corresponding provider information. In addition to a button, Take Me There, this button will navigate the consumer to the store's location. Once the consumer presses on the provider's image, it will direct the consumer to the provider page to order. The consumer has pressed Take Me There button and is been directed to a navigation page to the store. The consumer can filter the providers based on the different categories. The consumer can search for a specific provider. Now the consumer has selected the provider from the consumer page, and the available items will be displayed. Once the consumer presses on the item information will be displayed, and the consumer can select the quantity desired to be ordered. The consumer can fill his cart by selecting the desired quantity and adding the item to the cart. Once the consumer presses on the cart icon, he can view it and edit it. When pressed on Continue, a route from the user location to the store's location will be displayed, as well as the time and the distance. If the consumer's cart is not empty and the consumer tries to place an order from another provider, a message will appear asking the user if he wants to clear his cart. After pressing Continue on the route page, the consumer will be asked to confirm his order. Now, two devices will be opened simultaneously, one for the provider and one for the consumer, both created earlier. Once the consumer confirms his order, a notification will be sent to the provider that an order has been placed. There will be a 5-minute timer that the provider can approve the order, and the order state will be under processing. The full information of the order will be displayed when pressing on the drop-down icon. Once the provider approves the order, a notification will be sent to the consumer, indicating that the order is ready for pickup, and the state of the order changes to Waiting for Pickup. Now the consumer can navigate to the store to pick up his order and pay there. For any questions regarding the order, the consumer and provider can easily communicate using the built-in real-time chat to send messages and images. Once the consumer arrives to the store and pays for the order, the provider can confirm the pickup and the order state will change to Picked Up. The consumer now can rate the provider. For the provider, the order now is displayed in the order history under Picked Up tab. Here, the consumer placed an order but canceled it before it being approved, and a notification is sent to the provider that the order has been canceled. The order state is set to canceled. Here, the consumer placed an order, but the timer for approving the order has elapsed before it being approved, and the order state is set to canceled.